2 hours and 20 minutes, 2 hours and 25 minutes, around that range. Literally absolutely pathetic. The worst game yet by the New York Mets with this collective offense. So let's get into it. Let's talk about this shit show together, class. And let's begin with the fact that we saw in the first inning. Again, you're going to see the trend here. This was the Mets offense today. Let me just reiterate. This was a whole lot of nothing. So we're just going to rapid fire it real quick, okay? Mets, 1, 2, 3. Down in order right away. Ohtani hit by a pitch in the shoulder on an 0-2 count. So terrible start right away for David Peterson. All you need to do is get him to, I don't know, bite down and away. Ohtani's looked like dog shit for the majority of his career against David Peterson. All David needed to do was throw a pitch, trying to get him to bite like Javi Baez. Solid chance he would have bit. Instead, terrible placement. I understand it slipped. It happens. He didn't mean to do it. Very aware of that. Hits him right in the shoulder. Ohtani thankfully was okay. He stayed in the game. Then Tucker on with a walk. Will Smith, one of the best catchers in baseball with the RBI single. 3 up without a problem for the Dodgers without going down. Then we see Tio with a walk. So bases are becoming loaded there with no outs. Freddie Freeman strikes out because David rebounds beautifully after the mound visit with Justin Willard, Mets pitching coach. Paez, we see with the strikeout, or Alvarez. I'm getting confused if it was both or one. Regardless, we see Paez strike out when he has been absolutely electric. And then you see Muncy strike out. So after having bases loaded, he strands bases loaded. And David Peterson looks like, even though he threw roughly 30 pitches in the first, that he was actually, getting a little bit in a groove here. And the second, both the Dodgers and the Mets go down 1, 2, 3. And for the Dodgers, Rojas and Ohtani would strike out. Great job by Peterson, at least in that moment, retiring 6 consecutive batters. In the third, the Mets, you guessed it, go 1, 2, 3 yet again. Tyron Taylor was absolutely robbed by Muncy. It was a great catch by Muncy. Full jump man that we saw at third base, and that's how that happened. After that, we would see in the bottom of the third, Tucker and Tio get on with a walk again for the second time in 3 innings, and then Peterson was shaking his arm out, looking a little uncomfortable. He stayed in the game, though. I'll see if there's any post-game remarks regarding that to be notable at all. He just looks like he stiffened up for a second, which isn't a good thing for a pitcher, obviously. And then we saw, Freddie Freeman ground out, and that was a play where Francisco Lindor awkwardly got to the ball, essentially with his back turned to Simeon, and did a little bit of an awkward underhand toss, and Simeon wasn't able to properly corral it. Otherwise, he could have maybe tried to get the double play in time, but that was, in my opinion, more of Francisco Lindor not looking overly comfortable with making that play than it was Simeon unfortunately not being able to corral that ball properly, because it was a bizarre angle as it happened. Another game where, again, it felt like Francisco Lindor wasn't lined up the way that he needed to be from a defensive standpoint. Beyond that, we saw obviously we saw David Peterson get reviewed. He was okay, but we saw him then try to handle the that's a different inning. I actually apologize. Paez with a 3-run home run we saw shortly after, and that was on a curveball that literally was middle, 80 mile per hour, nuke, see ya. Quickly, 4-0 Dodgers, and the game was already over there. In the fourth, Vientos wasted a challenge on a straight call, and then he grounded out to end the inning for another 1, 2, 3. You saw Mr. Miggy Rojas with an opposite field ground roll double that Tyron Taylor couldn't get to the line in time. And right, Vientos then snags Ohtani's grounder for the second out, and then this is where we saw David Peterson looking like he almost twisted his ankle bad, sliding at first base, getting the out there. Thankfully, he was okay for his sake, and he would stay in the game. In the fifth, we would see Polanco snap the hitless skid for the New York Mets with a behind swing opposite field that only got through because of the slight shift alignment that the Dodgers had with their defense there that we saw to center right. So outside of that, the Mets literally did essentially nothing from that point on, and Alvarez unfortunately had a double play to end it. In the bottom of the fifth, after that, everybody, we saw the Dodgers against Peterson in this one because this would be Peterson's final inning of the day. And in the fifth, we would go on to see the following, where we would see Teoscar Hernandez with a 1-out double, Freddie Freeman with the single, but then working out of it was Peterson with a line out on Paez and a strikeout of Max Muncy. And David Peterson's final day, as you guys and gals can see right here, final line rather, 5 innings, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 4 walks, 7 strikeouts. You guys let me know what your final line grade for David Peterson is going to be. I'll give you my final line grade once I'm done breaking down this ball game. But you guys can go ahead and spam in the live chat right here, right now. And so our replay viewers, you can go ahead and most certainly do that in the comments below. Racer, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. As we continue on in the sixth, we see a whole lot of nothing by this Mets team. I mean, Tommy Pham grounds out, then you see a Simeon liner, and Taylor doing nothing for a 1-2-3. In the bottom of the sixth inning, we would see Craig Kimbrell almost throws literally at Francisco Alvarez as Alvarez bolts out of the catcher's box to try to get to him to avoid a pitch clock violation. It was avoided, but Kimbrel was literally in full windup and had to stop himself right before throwing the ball as Alvarez was getting closer and closer to him. It was absolutely bizarre. Thankfully, though, he didn't get hit and he was fine. And another day, another scoreless inning for Craig Kimbrel. So Kimbrel already giving you more immediate value than someone in, say, a Dickie Lovelady when he was here, because Dickie Lovelady didn't look as sharp in his first 2 outings as Kimbrel has. We're going to talk more about that here in a second. So not the problem was Craig Kimbrel today for the New York Mets against the Dodgers. But you know what will inevitably happen? Once the Mets find their offense, once they do get some type of groove going, that is inevitably when they consider those type of relievers and they get rocked, because the Mets are not allowed to have nice things until proven otherwise. In the bottom of the 7th, after the Mets do a whole lot of nothing for a 1-2-3 again, we would see Tucker strike out against Joey Gerber, and that was a beautifully placed pitch there by Gerber to get him to bite. That was literally a slider that actually hung a bit, but the way that it had the movement, Kyle Tucker could not get it. Will Smith gets on with a walk. Teoscar Hernandez will then strike out on a foul tip on a four-seam fastball that was dotted more outside corner, and then we would see a Freddie Freeman double. So runners at second and third facing Andy Baez, one of the hottest hitters in baseball right now. A strikeout on the foul tip that we saw on a beautifully placed four-seam fastball outside top corner to strand a pair. Joey Gerber, welcome back to the show. In the 8th inning, we would see Francisco Alvarez get on with a 2-out single, and then Tommy Pham unfortunately ground into the force out. In the bottom of the 8th, we would see Joey Gerber stay in, and we would see back-to-back strikeouts with the ABS system going in the Mets' favor. First, Max Muncy strikes out on a slider beautifully placed that we saw. I mean, you could not have placed a slider better there by Joey Gerber to get him backdoor like that. Then we would see Santiago Espinal, who is not all that great, even though the Mets suck, it's still true, with a slider that he swings through that you would see that was nicely placed. Again, caught a little bit of plate, but was more in the location that he was looking for on the righty-righty matchup. Miguel Rojas with another hit today. That would be a single, and then Shohei Ohtani flies out. So Joey Gerber, again, coming out of the blue, coming out of nowhere, only had 4 innings at the major league level for the Tampa Bay Rays last year. In the minors, had over 40 innings and was both a starter and reliever as swingman, and had 11 K per 9 of 5 walks per 9, and had, yes, you guessed it, a 6.09 ERA. So Joey Gerber, again, back in the show and looking effective for this New York Mets team. We'll take that. Marcus Semien then rips a single right away up the middle, and that's all she wrote. Then we see Lindor grind into the inning-ending play, and that does it for the ball game. When we talk more on this Mets pitching staff, David Peterson today, this was not the worst start Peterson had this year. This is true. We have seen him look worse. I like the fact that Peterson was able to rebound around, obviously, that terribly hanging curveball. But the lack of consistency with David is most certainly alarming. And as I've been telling you guys, if Peterson doesn't get his act together by the time that this month reaches its conclusion, it's going to be really hard to justify this man still being in this Mets rotation. And I've been telling you guys for a while, I'll be shocked if he's back with this team next year regardless. It's his walk year. The Mets have a lot of depth in their farm, and they're going to consider options in the offseason regardless of the lockout status. I think that regardless as to what happens, good, bad, or indifferent with David, this is likely his final year in Flushing, Queens, so I would love to see him make the most of it. Instead, he's doing everything he can to run himself out of town right now. You have the sinker that he threw 35% of the time, sitting right around 92. The slider, 26% of the time, sitting right around 86. Four-seam, 22% of the time, sitting right around 92. Curveball, 9% of the time, 81. Changeup, 8% of the time, right around 86. My grade for David Peterson today is going to be the amount of hits that he gave up. He's getting a 5 out of 10. Was this the worst start imaginable? No. But was it anything that I'm going to look back at and say, oh, you know, he looked damn good? No, I'm not going to go out of my way to do that either. So I'm going 5 out of 10 for David Peterson. I appreciate the fact that he was able to retire 6 straight, but I didn't appreciate the fact that he got worked as bad as he did early. Regardless of this being the Dodgers lineup, okay, we need to see a guy like David Peterson come out and bring more quality instead of what has barely even been quantity when he's given us innings lately. Now, beyond Peterson, you have Craig Kimbrel, as we mentioned. The four-seam fastball sat 93 today, which it wasn't terrible, and we saw him look good with it. The knuckle curve that he threw 15% of the time sat right around 82, and the sweeper that he threw just once was at 84 or so. So that's what you got there in the mix. And Joey Gerber, two-pitch man, not a problem. Four-seam fastball sat right around 94 on it, and we saw the slider that he threw 45% of the time. That was right around 87 miles per hour, which which is 2.5 miles per hour higher than what his, yearly average typically is. So again, some adjustments that Gerber has made in the Mets farm so far. So that's what you got there, everybody, from the Mets pitching. Now let's get on to this shit show yet again you call an offense. Starting off from the top, Francisco Lindor, 0-for-4, a $176 with a 541 OPS. Oh my God. Luis Robert, 0-for-3 today, 300 average, 855 OPS. You see how Robert, even when he sucks, he's still a stud right now? Dog. Mark Vientos, 0-for-3. Now, 244 average, 639 OPS, 0 for his last 20. When we look at Bo Bichette, 0-for-3, 225 average, 569 OPS, still not looking at all like a $42 million man. And really, a $60+ million man with the 110% tax that the Mets have. Jorge Polanco, and if I'm doing my math, then it would actually be, it should be like 80, right? Right? Because if he's making $42 million a year gross, it's 110% tax. He's made the Mets are really spending, $80+ million, right? As long as my math is mathing, because with the tax as well as what they're already paying, it's a shit ton. Because like Robert's contract is a base of $20 million, but with the 110% tax, it's 40. And what they're actually paying. Like, it's a lot of money. Further reason as to why, if I'm Cohen, I'm probably fuming. I don't care that you're 2.5, 3 weeks in the season. It's been absolutely brutal. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Jorge Polanco, 1-for-3 today. One of the lone wolves to get a hit. Batting a $192 with a 571. He just needs to continue to get healthier and get more in a groove, and we'll go on from there. So, we see not only Polanco do his thing, Francisco Alvarez, 1-for-3. 302 average, 993 OPS. He has looked really, really good this season from an offensive standpoint, just having more quality at bats. The swing isn't overly loopy. It's nice and compact. I've been overall impressed with Alvarez from an offensive standpoint this year. Defensively, still leaves a bit to be desired. Tommy Pham, 0-for-3 today, and that's just one of those things you got to give Tommy time, and him not having a spring training will likely go in hand with the slow start here. Marcus Semien, 1-for-3, 197 average with a 533 OPS, and Tyrone Taylor, 0-for-3, 182 average, 581 OPS. The Mets were out hit 8-3 today, and hilariously enough, the Mets had an expected batting average somehow, some way higher than the LA Dodgers today of 311 to 274. So in a day where the Mets had an expected batting average of over 3, pardon my French kiddos, fucking 100, and they can't get more than 3 hits, I mean, all you can do is laugh. Really, all you can do is laugh. They got robbed today. There were a lot of balls that were absolutely dead on the warning track, because that's the terrible part about playing at Dodger Stadium. It's a gorgeous park being there. I was there last year for the Mets Dodger series. But the ball, the way that the air is there, it just completely dies. Everything falls flat there on the warning track. And then you have a team like the Dodgers who know how to hit, who obviously know how to kind of take advantage of that, because they play there more often than any other team for the most part. So yeah, to say the Mets have been underwhelming is an understatement. Justin Robleski, the southpaw for the Dodgers today, went 8 innings, 2 hits, 0 earned runs, 0 walks, 2 strikeouts on 90 pitches. He has a 2.12 ERA.